So as part of the democratic ideal, you want to make it easy, and this is like post 1998, post reformasi reform, right? You want to make it easier for a new political party, make it possible for a new political party to be made. But what the elites, what the part of like Suharto's ex friends make sure is like that it remains difficult to actually, like build a party that is entirely people powered. That's why all the new political parties that we have usually is a spin-off of some Golkar.
You said it. You finally said it.
It's
a spin-off of we can go. Okay, Golkar. You got Golkar, and then you got Hanura,
right,
Gerindra, Nasdem,
Nasdem.
PSI. Oh my God, so much.
Right. So PSI, right? Like I think they initially wanted it to be a really independent, like youth-driven political party. But for the same reasons, I think at the end of the day, they still, I don't know, I think they still need some funding from certain groups that makes them that makes it difficult for them to really be independent.
Yeah,
at the
butuh
end of the day.
bensin. A lot of people are taken aback by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really wanted to go to Harvard Kennedy and also NYU Wagner. You guys need to you guys that are watching this, you guys need to aim high.
Yeah.
So Cardinal once said, you should aim for the stars. So at least when you fail, you fall on top a bed of clouds. He actually said that.
Oh, he did say that.
I think so.
Not the moon part. That wasn't him. I mean, wasn't
okay.
it like
I-
aim for the stars, at least you land on the moon?
Yeah, I think so.
He has his own version.
He has his own, but that implies that the moon is higher than the clouds, right? So I guess to make the analogy much more, much more positive, let's just fall on the moon instead of the clouds.
right,
Because if
right.
you fall on the clouds, it's like,
It's the end for you.
yeah.
But why do you want to go to these schools?
Why do I want to
public
go to the
policy?
schools? Because I'm very good at politics,
I can see that.
but I'm shit at governing.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm shit at governing.
yeah.
I want to know how to govern. I want to know how I can use my power. All right. So when I get the power, I don't know how to use it. It's like I'm chasing the ball. I play football. I chase the ball. When I get the ball, I don't know how to kick.
Yeah.
I accidentally kick with my left, my left foot.
Yeah.
Basically, it's major league fuck up,
Yeah.
right? And I think by studying public policy, I'm able to wield the power that I've managed to accumulate so wisely. That would
Right.
make me a legend.
Sure.
I look up to leaders like Lee Kuan Yew,
Right.
Mahathir Muhammad,
Who knows how to govern?
Suharto. And I really want to be like these people.
You
But
do.
But if I want to be them, I either got to be a doctor or a military general, which is weird. How did Mahathir how is he a doctor and he managed to bring Malaysia to richness is just beyond me.
You know, the people who usually want to learn about how to govern are not
Yeah.
the same people who like power. They're usually allergic to power.
They're
That's what I found.
allergic to power.
Somewhat. Like my friends, well, I went to the schools you mentioned, one of the schools you
Yes.
mentioned, and my friends generally are nerds, right? Like we go to a public policy school because we
Policy,
want to
yeah.
make the right policy decisions. We
Yes.
use our statistical analysis, evidence this, evidence that. And when it comes to actually running for office, we all suck. We're not the popular kids, right? Because we're the nerds who like sitting on our own desk and writing our reports. And that's why there's that gap between politicians who are really good at winning elections and those
Gathering public legitimacy.
exactly,
Yeah.
and they should be friends. So you should maybe instead of studying public policy, you could be friends with.
Well,
Well,
I'd like to be the best of both worlds,
Of course, yeah, and you can. And you
Tapi
can.
ya.
And just that's the
gue ngelihatnya masa kayak gini. The way I see it is that I want Indonesia to stop looking west. I want Indonesia to look east. Right.
right.
It's okay. You
Yeah.
can go to American schools, UK schools, European schools. That's fine. You can go to Western schools. When you get to Indonesia, don't try to make it a Western country.
Yeah.
Make it into a more Eastern country, but not Eastern as when we talk about Eastern country, it's a diverse. It's a very broad definition. You got Middle East, you got Far East, right? I'm talking about the Far East one. I like Mahathir's look East policy. He built Malaysia by saying that we should be more like Japan, right? And look, he built Malaysia up to this point, and he actually, he lived to the age of 100, and he's able to still see the fruits of his labor, which is insane and scary at the same time. Holy shit! But once we reach that equilibrium, I think we'll be a great country. Now, why do I say we should look east? Because I feel like Indonesia needs a bit of divide. When I say divide, it's based on the Confucian. It's based on Confucian norms. Why do I say Confucian norms? Why not Indian norms? Well, Indian norms has a structure, right? But Confucian norms, it's more about the function. And the function of society should be boiled to four functions. One is the merchants. Two is the bureaucrats. Three is the artisans. Four is the peasants. And they should stick to their function and not cross the boundaries. Feel free to disagree or agree with me. I feel like if you disagree with me, that'll actually be very good, because there's something that I can learn from your take.
Yeah.
And it makes things much more eye-opening. Because once, say, if the merchants cross over to the bureaucrats, we have an oligarchy or a plutocracy, which we really don't want, which I feel like Indonesia is right now. I feel like living in Jakarta is like living in Night City. You got Arasaka running around. For people who don't get this reference, it's Cyberpunk. It's a game, by the way. But yeah, that's exactly what Xi Jinping did in China. He made the businessmen focus on bringing revenue instead of governing. That's why Jack Ma was. That's why he decided to hack Jack Ma into pieces. Made Alibaba into 6 companies instead of 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about that?
So I think I always feel like this dichotomy between the West and the East way to govern is an oversimplified one, because I think when you break down what governing means, it's institutions and people, right? I think many of the countries that you mentioned, Malaysia, Singapore, inherited good institutions.
Agree.
From their colonizers.
Yes.
They were colonized by the British Empire at the time, and when they say that, there's the Eastern value and the Eastern way of doing things, it's how you manage, or you work with the people.
Yes.
But it does not necessarily mean that you abandon your institution, like this idea of good governance and institutions altogether, because it's like the Asian way of things or whatever. So I think what I mean with that is I think when you talk about public policy, there's so many different elements to it, and it's not necessarily West versus East. Sometimes it's stages of, let's say, human development, where your people are at a given time. Sometimes it's like understanding the cultural context through which things can happen, and so on and so forth. So that's one. But I think on the part where you think that people should pick one role and stick to it, I do
disagree.
No, I unfortunately agree with that.
You unfortunately agree.
So
okay.
To the extent that I think each of these roles hold to a certain logic base.
Yes.
And they create stability when this logic base hold each other accountable. Yes. The market should aspire for efficiency, and they should pursue everything at the cause of efficiency. The government should be protecting the rights, and it should be the equalizer of the market. Whenever there is abuse, we call it market failures, right? That's where the government steps in. Intervenes. And so when this logic base, gets confused in the process, when we call it vested interest or intertwined interest and what have you. But what really happens is no one is holding the fort of this logic base and holding each other accountable. I do think that you can move sectors. So it's not necessarily that you can't, you're a businessman, you can't be a politician in your next life, the phase of your life. But when you move, make a clear move that you're now playing this role. Yeah, this how do you say that? Yeah, disconnect from, make sure that your interests are now, the public goods.
Interest, not private
the public interest.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, I think, because there are certain, more recently we have ex-BUMN ministers, and part of the argument there, or nggak BUMN, it's a private sector ex-private sector directors, CEOs, whatever,
Yeah.
being ministers, right? And the argument there is always they're good managers. They're
Yeah.
good problem solvers, so they
Yes.
must be able to solve, problems as a minister,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So there is some truth in that, in a sense that the human capacity to problem solve is a good quality to have as a government.
Yeah.
But the problem lies in when you become that government and you don't switch that public interest logic and understand the different context
Yeah.
within which the government should rule. That's when the problem rises, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This brings me to the next question, which correlates with what you said about you and your friends being policy geeks, right?
Yeah.
You go to public policy schools, you follow policy events, network, policy geeks, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Japan? Because Japan as a country, ini bukannya gua. It's not that I'm glazing Japan or dick riding it. I'm just asking. I'm just asking what Mrs.
Sure.
Mrs. Afutami here thinks about how Japan works. But Japan politically works where bureaucracy has most of the power. And it's different from the U.S. It's different from Indonesia, where most of the power is concentrated on people with businesses, people with stakes on the private sector. And Japan is controlled mostly by bureaucrats. But buzzer, there's Mitsubishi, Sumitomo, these Keiretsu, Zaibatsu, no. Those people, they know when to stop intervening inside the government. They know when to stop stepping out of the private sector and into the public sector. Japan is ruled by old school, old money bureaucrats, and they focus mostly on policies. And it's really possible for you to be a PNS, to be a civil servant. You start off as a civil servant, and then you go into the LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, usually, because Japan, it's actually a one-party state if you think about it. They keep on electing the same party, right? And then you become prime minister. And what do you think if that applies in Indonesia? What do you think if bureaucracy and policymakers are the most powerful group in Indonesia? Do you think it applies here?
First of all, I think I wondered if the fact that Japan was able to focus on, first of all, economic policy and like domestic system that's not driven by political distribution and redistribution is mostly because of what happened after 45.
Yes.
Because post World War II, I think they effectively they're disabled by the U.S.
Security. Yeah, Article 9.
Like so they have it maybe changes their way of looking at, okay, the only focus that we can have right now is economic development.
Yeah,
That's
school of
like
thoughtnya beda.
Yeah, basically they started with a very different school of thought. Now in Indonesia, I do think day-to-day policy making still lies with the bureaucrats. You know what they say, Indonesian policies are owned or run by echelons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yang sebenarnya menjalankan negara ini eselon 1 dan eselon 2 sebenarnya, not even the ministers.
Yes.
I mean, to the extent that they're implementing the programs, if you're talking about like sustainability every 5-year political cycle, they're the ones holding the fort, and they're like 10-year, 20-year bureaucrats in these ministries. And if you're a development partner, if you work with the government a lot, you know that they're your actual friends. That's where you invest your relationships with.
Yeah.
So so those are the bureaucrats that upon which this country relies on. But I think the bread and circus are with the politicians, right? Sometimes there's this perception that's where, it is, right? At the very fundamental level, like when the president wants the budget to be prioritized on A or B, of course, that's what goes. But in reality, how do you interpret that really high level political decision translates to the bureaucrat? So the first thing that President Prabowo did that really changes the dynamics is when he changes the structures of ministries. That created the first chaos.
Yeah, that is a apa ya namanya? It is disruption.
It's a huge disruption,
Yeah.
and not just politically. I know a lot of the criticism is that, oh, ini bagi-bagi kursi and like all the political transactions. But even within the actual bureaucrats, right? That's a big disruption because then you move institutions.
around. Yeah, you
people
move around.
are trying to find. So the first year, effectively, you wasted that on people trying to catch on.
Yeah.
What is my new role? What am I supposed to do? He
Yes.
split up Ministry of Environment and Forestry, for example. He changes Ministry of Marine Affairs and Investment. I mean, because I mostly deal or work with day-to-day climate like related bureaucrats. That's where I really see the changes on the ground. And I mean, and they're the ones who actually has to clean up the mess, right? Like, oh, when the budget changes, they still need to make things happen because
Yes.
there are commitments within the RPJM, and Indonesia has this 5-year medium-term plan,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So it's like how like we need to pay some attention to where the bureaucrats are, what they have been doing, and that's basically why I built Think Policy. So like the way our mission, I guess, is like to actually think about the broader ecosystem of policy making, which often do not receive the same spotlight as the like political again bread and circus, but are actually really matter on the day-to-day. So we talk to them, we do public policy trainings, have this basically group therapy sessions. We do a lot of that, with all the ISMs.
It's very running Indonesia could be a very stressful experience.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if this answers your question on how should I look at Japan, but
I think but it is very accurate what you said though about the bureaucrats, right?
yeah.
So back in the days, I used to work with one director, right? And before
In a ministry?
in a ministry,
Wow.
yes,
I didn't know that.
And before it was the end of my stint inside that ministry, this man called me into his office. It
Okay.
was a very dark office. He stood there with his glasses and his batik and his PNS smile, and he looked at the window. After we took a picture together, he told me, you should fancy yourself working inside the civil servant, as a civil servant. I said, why? Why, you ask? And he told me, well, I've been inside this job for 30 years. I've seen presidents rise and fall. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I still hold power.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy.
He knows what he's doing.
This guy knows what he's doing. He's the true stakeholder of Indonesia.
Exactly.
And he's like, they can think that they hold power for 5 years, but I'm here for 30 years.
Oh.
Whoa. I'm like, whoa. Oh, damn.
Oh, damn indeed.
Damn. And this is coming from a very soft-spoken man. So you can imagine how
He trusts you
menacing
enough
it
to
is.
say that. Like he must
Yes.
really trust you.
Yeah, if you're watching this, you know who you are. But yeah, I'm not gonna tell you which ministry it is. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you guys which ministry it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
long story short, they know who holds the day-to-day basis, and sometimes they're like, why do we have to send this paper to the DPR? Why do we have to keep electing these people? We do the actual job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure thing. That's why you need group therapy. Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why we're going. And sometimes with I don't know, but I think they live in a system that forces them to be risk averse.
Yes.
So as much as they do hold the power, the I don't know, the reward and punishment mechanism makes them really afraid of taking initiative. So unfortunately, that's the case, right? So that's the if there's one major reform that we need to do, I think, is to actually provide or give these bureaucrats more autonomy to make decisions, because they are the actual ones with like the knowledge, the contextual understanding on the problem, and so on and so forth. And so you can. So my dream is, so looking at Singapore, right? Like if you build the public administration mechanisms good enough, you can, like, the goal is to not care who gets elected.
Yes.
Because like the bureaucracy works so well regardless.
Yes, the system needs to be built.
Yeah.
Yeah. The system needs to be built, but the way the system needs to be built is that whoever holds the political office must understand exactly how the system flows.
Yeah.
And I feel like most politicians, they either don't understand how the system works, or they try to benefit from the status quo, or they know how the system works.
Yeah.
But they're too afraid to make any changes to the status quo.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Which one was your boss?
which one is my boss? Well, he's a bureaucrat. He doesn't have any opinion towards that.
Okay.
But I know most of the politicians around me, I'm glazing you guys, by the way, they know how the system works. They want to change it, but it's just that the status quo is too great. There's too much stakeholders, right? And this is where we start talking about politics.
Sure.
If we talk about public policy, right?
Yeah.
I saw your tweet and feed on Instagram. Really inspiring, to be honest, because you talked about political action committee, right? And this came after you reacted to Zohran Mamdani's victory as in a victory of the first round into the mayoral election, right, in NYC, in New York City. But before that, what do you think about Zohran? What do you think about him? I just,
Yeah, and this is an important disclaimer.
Yeah.
I feel like people thought that I was a socialist.
You're a
too.
socialist. Yeah.
That-
I mean,
that
you kind of like
support
all my socialist
everything-
concepts.
that I endorse with all my heart, like every single policy ideas that he has. But that's not the case, right? The way I see it, more than anything, the rise of Zohran Mamdani was about a hope, like a possibility that you can really like build your political career from, well, not really from the ground. Of course, he's part of he's privileged and all of that, but for newcomers to have a shot, right? Like
Yes.
take their shot. And this hasn't been the case. The last election, the number of anggota DPR who was not part of the incumbent, who was not re-elected or affiliated or related to existing politicians was under 2%.
Yes.
So Zohran Mamdani, to me, is more of a symbol. So I put aside, like we can discuss about his policy ideas, but I think gives this hope or like, I don't know, like a new momentum to think about like, can we have more of I call them second generation politicians.
Oh yeah, millennial politicians.
In the office.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of millennials. I actually made a list of all millennials who I think is who's gonna run for office or probably gonna get office, and I feel like some members of my server actually bets on who's who's gonna get elected, right?
Who are on your list now? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, it's actually a long list.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a long
Is this
list.
based on like political reality or more of like what you wish is happening?
Political reality.
Okay.
And it's just political
so like
reality.
Kevin Nguyen.
Huh? No. I mean, it's a millennial list.
Okay.
So no Gen Zs are in there.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's
right,
mostly just
right.
millennial. It's
He is
just
a Gen
millennials
Z.
actually.
Okay, gotcha.
We gotta, and we've been watching this list closely, right?
Okay.
And anyways, what I like to talk about again is going back to the political action committee is that I don't think that Indonesia has a political action committee, but for viewers who are watching this, right? For you guys who don't understand what a political action committee, let me enlighten you guys. Let me uplift your knowledge. So, a political action committee is, as what it says on the tin, it's a committee that takes political action. How do they do this? They fundraise, they socialize, and they push policies. And that's exactly what a political action committee is. And it's legal in America. But the legal standing here in Indonesia is that we have no definition of a political action committee. The only thing that comes close to a political action committee is a consulting firm, Ormas, and also yayasan, a foundation. Yes. And foundations, ormas, and what did I say? Consulting firms. They're very limited on the scope of what they can do in order to bring about political action, correct? And I think Indonesia would benefit greatly if we start having political action committees. And having these, I feel like, is the first step towards organizing political movements, right? Because political action committee screens the members, they gather all the members, and then they also, look for money to push policies, right, and do research. Actually, a few political parties are doing this somewhat, but I feel like it's just for their own party, right? Kayak contohnya, let me name some kayak Amanat Nasional Institute, and then you got the Golkar Institute as well.
They're not necessarily PACs.
Yeah, they're not necessarily PACs, but they're doing what PACs are supposed to do, but
sure.
not really. Like looking for future leaders. Recruitment tools, basically, yeah. And I feel like political action committees in America, I don't think they're more, correct me on this, they're not more party aligned, but more ideologically aligned, right? Because Zohran Mamdani managed to get up because he was supported by Run for Something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it right? Yeah. And Run for Something isn't, even though the person who founded Run for Something used to be Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. She's a Democrat. But Run for Something is more, the ideology of Run for Something is more leftist.
Right.
Yeah, it's more leftist. So not necessarily Democrat, but just leftist, social democracy, social liberalism, etc., etc. That's why they produce people like Zohran Mamdani. And I feel like in the future, they're going to, produce mini versions of Bernie Sanders, who's going to import, the Soviet state of Vermont to the entirety of America.
Yeah. We did have a mini version of Bernie Sanders. It was AOC.
Oh, yeah, AOC and the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The squad.
Sorry, yeah, the squad. You look so scandalized when I said the gang. Yeah, the squad. Yeah. But yeah. Could you please enlighten me exactly your thoughts on Indonesia making a political action committee? Because that's exactly what you've been talking about in your Instagram feed and also your Twitter.
Yeah. Before we talk about PACs, I want to talk about political parties.
Yes.
Right? Because the number one institution through which political change can happen is political parties. Like if you think about founding a business, a foundation, usually you'll think about a vehicle through which you want to achieve something, right? You want to generate profit, you create a firm. But we don't, this country basically has a law that makes it super difficult to have or to establish a new political party without relying on huge conglomerates or funding, right? It's very, very expensive to actually build one.
Bohir. Yeah.
Harus ada bohirnya. And not just, it's not because there is an actual entrance fee to make a political party. It's because you are required to have representation in 75% of, first of all, in every single province in Indonesia.
38.
Then 75% of the kabupatens and kota within each of the province, and then 50% of sub-districts within each kabupaten. So it's basically basically the numbers I'm saying is basically you need to have at least 5 KTPs of your party supporters to do it, right? And then you need to get verified through KPU. Basically, so as part of the democratic ideal, you want to make it easy, and this is post 1998. Post-reformasi reform, right? You want to make it easier for a new political party, make it possible for a new political party to be made. But what the elites, what the part of Suharto's ex-friends make sure is that it remains difficult to actually, build a party that is entirely people powered. That's why all the new political parties that we have usually is a spin-off of some Golkar.
You said it. You finally said it. It's a spin-off of we can go. Okay, Golkar. You got Golkar, and then you got Hanura,
right,
Gerindra, Nasdem,
Nasdem.
PSI.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so much.
Right. So PSI, right? I think they initially wanted it to be a really independent, youth-driven political party. But for the same reasons, I think at the end of the day, they still, I don't know, I think they still need some funding from certain groups that makes it difficult for them to really be independent.
Yeah, butuh bensin.
And not just that, once you have the political party, every candidate that has to run, there's a recent, I think I sent you the link, right? I also need to
cost of politics.
I don't have all the numbers on top of my head, but there's a study on cost of politics in Indonesia, how it has significantly multiplied since 2004. We can talk about many reasons why that is the case, but basically, even within the existing political parties, it's very expensive to run. I think part of what they're saying is if the median income in Indonesia is 36 million rupiah, it would have taken 140 years for you to save up to self-finance and run for office. 140 years. Basically, it's impossible. Like if you make less than 36 million.
Yeah. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
So
we need some. So then it leaves you with two options, right? The first option is to play this game, this very expensive, high cost of politics game, but basically work the system.
Okay.
Like what you said, like the first type of politicians and the second type, right?
Yeah.
This is basically the second type of politician game, which is understanding how the game works and still work with it. And what that requires is, like, if we think about PACs, then we need a different source of financing. Yes, the cost of politics will remain high. Let's say you want to run for office, you need at least 5 billion rupiah, let's say.
yes.
So 5 billion rupiah, like how do you fundraise for that in a way that doesn't leave you indebted to certain, I don't know, conglomerates and so on. Like how can that be fully people like through crowdfunding or and so on and so forth, so that you can actually, once you get elected and you're in office, you'll be able to actually pursue those changes. But the second part is you still need a political party to endorse you. You still need to join a political party unless you want to run, because when we talk about offices, right, there's the anggota DPR, anggota DPRD, then kepala daerah.
Yes.
So let's say bupati or wali kota. Right now, to run for DPRD or DPR, you still need to be part of a political party. You can run independently as a kepala daerah, but you still need some degree of endorsements from DPRD, karena otherwise you cannot govern either. Because you still need their blessing on any reforms you want to do, right? So there's that game. So how do we build a movement that would create enough bargaining power, right, financially and politically, that would allow you, that would position you when you make that deal with the political party and run for office, that you can maintain or retain some degree of control when you run.
Let's make this interesting.
Sure.
So we mentioned all the data, all the obstacles, but let's run it through in a simulation, right? Imagine I'm a broke-ass Gen Z, which I am, unfortunately. So I make below 36 million a year. No, I make below 36.
Wait,
a month, yes.
Wait, was it a year or a month?
A month,
right.
yeah. So I make below 36 million a month, right? And I really want to be a politician.
Sure.
I got really funny ideas, bright ideas that I feel like a lot of people would agree with me.
Okay.
I want to cut that. I want to make tap water available for everybody.
That's a great idea.
I want to cut police funding.
Untung gua nggak bilang.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got all these bright ideas, right?
Yeah.
And I want to spread them to society, right?
Let's go.
What's the first thing I should do?
Decide which office you want to run.
Okay, I feel like this since I'm not that close enough with Prapski and Megawati and the rest of the gang, you know.
Yeah.
You got Nasdem, who's Surya Palo. You got PSI, who's Jeffrey Giovanni. You got Hanura, who's Wiranto. You even got like all these bohir without parties like Hendro Priyono, right? I'm not close with these bohirs, right? And I can't just walk up to Sinarmas and be like, hey, I want to make tap water available for everybody. That's heretical. Like, imagine sharing what is profitable, right? That's heretical. And I got to do the Guangxi Chinese thing too first. And
So you want to be independent.
So I want to be part of the party.
Okay.
But I'm not close with them. So I got to run for I want to be DPRD first for my people. Yeah.
All right.
So what's the first thing I got to do?
Yeah, okay. So you, I think, decide which political party you want to run from or with. And they usually have like a clear, I mean, if the party has good recruitment mechanism, then it'll be pretty easy for you to find out how to do that. I think Gerindra, PKS knows how they, like PKS is one of the best like kaderisasi dibilangnya, recruitment mechanism, right? Gerindra juga, I think like they have their Tidar, this youth wing, organizations, which is their way of recruiting. So you go there and say, I want to run for the local DPRD.
And what's usually the catch? So like they would accept me, but what's the catch usually?
You either have to pay a hefty sum for, I think they have different labels for it. Sometimes it's kayak biaya pendaftaran anggotanya or basically pendaftaran for anggota DPRD ini, but something like that.
Yeah.
Two, you might, so depending on, so Indonesia has 84 dapils and every dapil, sorry ini DPRD ding ya. So depending on your DPRD, they will have a certain number of kursi available, right, from that party. So if that's not already filled, then you might have a shot. But if they already have enough candidates, then you might need to find other parties that would accept you.
Okay,
or other
say they don't have a
city.
candidate and they want to accept me. What's the catch? I gotta pay for a membership.
You gotta pay
right?
for a
But
membership.
like again, I'm a brokey Gen Z, so I'm like, but lady, I got no money with me. See, I got $0 on me. What should I do?
If you kiss ass to the local political party leader,
Okay,
sometimes they would give you beasiswa.
really?
Yeah, like political scholarship. Sometimes
Okay.
if you're super popular. Sorry,
Okay.
so okay, in this situation, in this scenario, are you popular or not?
Okay, so I'm not popular. I'm just
You're
a
not
broke
popular,
Gen Z.
right? So because if you're super popular, there might be a case that like because they want to tap on your popularity, they will give some waiver, situation like,
I
it's
see.
fine, you can't pay whatever. But if you're not, then you need to fundraise first to pay for that entrance fee, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, damn. I'm not popular. What should I do? I can't do content. Should I open TikTok, become influencer? So I'm popular. Tapi kalau gue buka TikTok, if I open TikTok,
Yeah.
it's just gonna spread to the rest of Indonesia, not my dapil.
Yeah,
you know?
belum tentu.
So, belum tentu dapil gua kan.
Right,
So
right.
it's
So that's where this Run for Something comedy comes in, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
idea
The political
is
action committee, right?
the political
Yeah.
action comedy.
Wait,
We haven't decided what
Yeah,
it would be.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
But like what okay, so you said fundraising, right?
Yeah.
So what is traditionally done by these unpopular brokey kids to do to fundraise?
There's a few different ways. The easiest way usually is, and this is why most of them come from money,
Yes.
is or from family members, right?
Yeah.
Like you ask your dad, your auntie, whatever, for this funding. Otherwise, I know some candidates in the past who actually have fundraising dinners.
Yes.
And invite, people who would potentially pay for
Really?
you.
Really? It's like in America.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been to one of these dinners.
These old
I didn't
money.
pay anything, unfortunately. I didn't support it. But yeah, you can, essentially you need to fundraise.
Essentially I need a fundraise.
So either you fundraise through crowdfunding, you know some rich people or a few of middle class people, but you gotta fundraise basically.
Damn, I got a fundraise.
And the entrance fee is barely nothing compared to the actual campaigning fee, right? Because once you
Yeah.
are on the list, kalau masih proporsional terbuka, right, your name's on the list, then you gotta compete against the other candidates from your party.
Yeah.
And that can take a lot of, depending on what campaign style you want to run, you can either be like the grassroots, going like door to door canvassing, what have you, or buy a big billboard, whatever it is. But you gotta have money for that.
Is it possible I'd be like Bongbong Marcos, have like a dollar shooter and be like, or is that illegal here in Indonesia?
I mean, that could be part of the. What do you mean? Who do you shoot the dollars?
The people,
to
like I go
people?
to a random random RT and be like,
Yeah, I mean that's just how you want to do it. But in practice, the politicians have been doing that, right?
Have been doing
where
that.
The money politics come in, the serangan fajar and what
Oh,
have you.
I see.
The same study actually finds out that each household receives 100,000 up to 500,000 rupiah for every from every candidate, basically.
Okay.
So if you need to have at least kalau DPR tuh 50,000, so 50,000 votes is what you need. I think for local DPRD it will depend on the kabupaten, but let's say 5,000, 10,000, right? How do you get that 5,000, 10,000 votes?
I can't because I'm not popular enough. Looks like my really great ideas is just gonna die. I'm just gonna live a normie life.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. So you see, I feel like the problem is the cost of politics is too big, right? And it kills potential bright students, bright young people who really want to go out there and make a change. You can't do it because you need money, and it's and again, it's really hard to shake down money from people when you don't have if you don't have any relatives or you don't have any connections that would give you money. Then again, like if they give you money, there's always a catch.
Yeah.
There's no free lunch. There's
Yeah.
no free lunch, guys.
Exactly,
Remember that. There's
exactly.
no free lunch.
Exactly.
So, so circling back, right? And I guess this is where the political action committee comes in,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So how it will work is we'll need to think about the legal entity. As you
Yes.
said, there's only like a few legal forms because there's no like official PAC form in Indonesia that can fundraise to do certain activities. And you'll also need to be somewhat creative in labeling what this like funding political campaign activity is, right? Like as a foundation, does that fall under political education? Like what is the, because there are some limitations on what specific form of legal entity can or
Yes.
cannot do in this country. So that tweet, obviously, like we haven't figured everything out,
Yes.
right? But basically find that form and sell the idea that we are going to be the curators of these candidates. So if you don't know where these good people, good politicians are, we'll find it for you. The PAC will, and with like some form of recruitment, some I don't know, like interviews, make it like there's some crazy ideas, like make it a reality show and like
Reality
to
show.
test what real people, value and personalities are. No, but that's just crazy idea. But like basically what we do.
It's a good idea. It's not
It
a
is?
crazy idea.
You think it's a good idea?
I think in Indonesia it will work.
That could be a way to fundraise too. Like if
Yeah.
it's a reality show and it generates revenue, then
A lot
that's
of
it. Like you
people
can
who
get.
used to appear in reality shows run for office. Look at Varel.
So let's see. Maybe
Yeah.
that's how we can do it. But basically, the idea is the service that this organization or PAC will be doing for you, for the voters, is finding where these good candidates are,
Yeah.
right? And then the idea is then you can donate to the PAC.
Yeah.
Either specifically to a candidate of your choosing. So let's say we already selected, let's say 38 candidates for each province lah gitu.
Yeah.
And you can donate for a specific, maybe from your dapil, from your
Yes.
voting district, or to the broad movement,
Okay.
what have you. And then the PAC then will help you, identify the party, kayak biro penyalur gitu. So like will then help you find the local party ecosystem for you to run for office with, and provide the finances for you. That being said, I think it depends on how ready, like I don't know the willingness to pay of Indonesians for this kind of movement, right? Because I think we pay, let's say, I don't know, 20,000 rupiah for our coffee every day. Do we want to pay, is our willingness to pay for like a political candidate that will fight for our right higher or lower than that? And
Yeah.
what would that amount to in a year?
And-
Because then
Yeah, and not only that, tapi there's a problem with trust as well.
Exactly.
Because Indonesians have looked at politicians and to
Exactly.
be like, this is so bullshit. I'm not
Yeah.
going to give my money to this. Very low trust society.
Exactly. So the number one task of this
Yeah.
PAC would be to build its credibility. Like what are your criteria in selecting these
Yes.
people? Like how do you know that you have the integrity to make sure
Yes.
that these are the right candidates? And more importantly, how you make sure that the party doesn't end up taking over control over the
Of the
outcomes
PAC.
after not over the PAC but the candidates when they win once they win. Because if you still run from Gerindra, right?
Yeah.
Let's say the PAC help you win
Yeah.
the office, you will still need to vote based on fraksi within your misalnya committee or in DPRD.
Chamber.
In your chamber. So in a way, that's why this is part of what Sarah commented there
Yes.
as well. Is,
Sarah as in Rahayu Saraswati.
is that even though you put in one person in DPRD or DPR, that does not necessarily guarantee anything because you vote as a fraksi. So you can't be dissenting from, let's say you run from Gerindra or Democrat, you want to vote against, what did you want to do? Cut the funding of the police?
Yeah. Yeah. Cut.
That is
Yeah.
impossible. If you can't dissent from what official Gerindra fraksi
Yeah.
position would be. And plus, and why you can't dissent is because they have this tool called PAW, pergantian antar waktu,
Oh.
which is a very undemocratic but legitimate way to replace you, a candidate that was elected into office, with another apa sebutnya kader from the party for whatever made up reason. And that basically is kind of like a tool to make dissenting voices within the parties to have to play it nicely because otherwise they can threaten you with this PAW mechanism.
Oh, that's problematic.
Yeah, if this is the first time you're hearing it, it is very problematic. That's why if you saw that Bambang Pacul video of like we do what Bu Ketum said.
Buketum, Pacu,
Yeah, because in reality, so not to name any specific ketum, but in reality, all ketums have that control to
They
some
have
extent.
to play
on
nice.
their,
Play nice now. I mean, it's very shocking for me to hear that there is a mechanism like that here inside Indonesia. And it really does concentrate a lot of power inside the political parties
Yes.
instead of the political instruments kayak DPR, the political institutions kayak DPRD,
Yep.
DPR RI gitu.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
So that's why running for bupati offices
Yeah.
somewhat is more feasible. I think if you want to try it first time, because I
Uh-huh.
do think run for office as an endeavor is like a long term,
Yeah.
effort. But I think if you want to try, because this is an experimentation, we don't
Yes,
know
yes, yes.
if it will work or not. But at least we will experiment on trying. It's like the Mamdani experiment as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Tapi as a bupati, you will somewhat have more autonomy. You can't be de-seated as a bupati that easily compared
Yeah.
to legislative positions.
Now, looking at the situation right now in Indonesia, right? We have a considerable amount of young people inside of Indonesia. We have
Yes.
56% of our population. Next year, I spoke to somebody from the Presidential Communication Office,
Yeah.
and they said next year it could be projected 57%
Oh.
of young people inside Indonesia.
And by young, what's the definition?
The definition is around the ages below 35.
Okay.
We have a lot of young people in Indonesia, and the criticism, right? The criticism, not the actual reality. Since we live in a democracy, some things are based on perspective, right? And they say that young people, Indonesia is increasingly doing policies that are making it young people harder to live in.
Yes.
And it's making them struggle because young people who actually want to make life much more easier in Indonesia, they aren't able to get elected into
Yes.
office. And when Pemilu comes around, when elections come around, when they go to the constituents, they're shocked to realize that the constituents wouldn't really, they are. I'm choosing my words carefully right now as to not bring the ire of the constituents, but they would rather be compensated through material means rather than being fed ideas or solutions to their problems. And there's just a disconnect of how the circumstances in Indonesia is making it hard for young people to go up, and the only young people that can go up are the ones that are connected in power right now. And do you actually think that that if Indonesia has a PAC, that could ultimately level the playing field for young people in Indonesia?
Yeah, so if it's a numbers game,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, winning democracy is a numbers game. And if there's enough young people who are convinced that we need a new way of doing things and are convinced that the PAC at least can be a good experiment to bet on and help us finance the PAC and have one of us run for office, it is worth a shot, right? Like we will actually have a shot. Because I think the way that so first of all, I think DPR has one of the lowest youth representation this year. And as I mentioned, like only 2%, under 2% of anggota DPR does not have direct connection to either get re-elected or connected to politicians,
Says
right?
here,
1.6% or something.
yeah,
So the only
56%. 56%
of what?
of
voters.
we're talking about incumbent candidates, right?
No, so
Oh.
so 56% are incumbent. The remaining 38% is connected. They're second generation politicians.
Oh, second generation. Okay.
So they're kids of politicians
Okay,
as
okay.
well,
Yeah.
or connected in one way or another. So in order to break this cycle, right, you really need a different way of financing, a different way of recruiting that would allow for these young voters to have their own candidate. And I do think this PAC, I mean, again, the credibility part, the integrity part, the working with political party part would be really hard. but I do think it's one of the ways that we can address it. The second, much more game-changing reform that needs to happen, however, is the omnibus law politic.
Oh, that's interesting.
The RUU
Could you please
politic.
elaborate?
The RUU politic. So there
Yeah.
has been a lot of discussions around how many of we have different undang-undangs, different laws that regulate the political system. We have RUU pemilu, right? We have RUU yang mengatur what political parties can and cannot do. 2011 kalau nggak salah, undang-undang 2011 that basically creates all these constraints right now in making these changes possible. What I mentioned earlier in terms of how a new political party can be established, for example, how what is the transparency requirement for any political parties? Like, are they required to open their list of financiers and so on? Kapan pemilu dan pilkada dilaksanakannya, whether or not langsung. What else? I think the PAW mechanism that we mentioned. So all of this are distributed across a few different laws. Now, there's been a discussion, the same way that the Omnibus Law Ciptaker is being made. What if we have one law that revises a bunch of different things within these few different laws?
Oh, that'd be very disruptive.
Can reform. It will be really disruptive. That can really reform the political system for good. But again, first of all, if we are to have this law, I don't think this regime of anggota DPR is what I would want to be discussing this omnibus law politic. But basically, if we are having the right conversations around it, this should allow for better recruitment system, better financing system, kind of like an equalizing way. MK has been issuing some of like removal of thresholds. This whether parliamentary threshold should be 4% or less, removal of the presidential threshold, that would be like really game changing, right? So the PAC is kind of a short-term band-aid. It's kind of like gaming the system the way that it still works. But what you really want to do is to change the system, and this RUU politic will actually be the vehicle to do it.
Okay. PAC, we look for members. We basically source them to other political parties, right?
Yeah.
And these members, they're often very young, charismatic, bright, clever. Really, really great people. Inda said, "Tell Afu I said hi."
Hi, Inda.
Okay. So anyways, my question is, what stops the PAC from outright becoming a political party of its own?
What I mentioned, so if we're able to find all those signatures, then sure. You also need physical offices in each of these sub-districts.
Okay.
So that's going to be a lot more expensive compared to actually just fundraising for these candidates to run from existing parties.
So the only reason why PAC stops becoming a political party is because the expenses in the political party.
In establishing one, yeah.
Okay. But
in addition to then you still needing to fundraise for actually running for office, right?
Let's talk about wisdom here. If the laws of making political parties, Undang-Undang 2008 tentang partai politik kalau nggak salah, you guys can correct me on this. It's revised, and then it's much more easier to make a political party. Would it be wise for the PAC to become a political party of its own, knowing that it has access to a lot of capita, a network of young people, also the loyalty and devotion of some of its members, to become a political party, or should they just still become a political action committee?
If they can agree on their vision, and I wouldn't say ideology, because this country is, I think, non-ideological at this moment, right? Like every political party is kind of more pragmatic rather than driven by specific values. But if they can agree on like the same goal, then establishing one political party would make sense. Because what the PAC can still do is allowing for someone with PKS-leaning values and Gerindra-leaning values to still run if they're like equally bright young people with ideas. Whereas with a party, then you have your manifestos.
Yeah. I do agree. It's much more wiser for the political action committee to become a more politically neutral body, right? And because that way we don't really step on the foot of anybody inside the Indonesian political scene.
And the other part is you can't unless you have enough seats in the parliament,
Yeah.
you can't actually change a law by just being one party, right? If you
Yeah.
have less than 4% of the seats, you still need to build coalitions.
Yeah, coalition.
So that's a trade-off. Like if
Yeah.
you run through existing parties, you can kind of try to drive somewhat different changes from within versus. But if this so-called new political party becomes so popular and we can get big enough, because 56% you mentioned 57% of young voters, if everybody agrees on or like get on this new political party, right? And yes, potentially we can really make some significant changes, but otherwise if you're like PSI, siapa namanya, Perindo,
ya.
all like tried to do it and didn't even make it to the
Partai
parliament.
Umat, yeah. Let's have a dilemma. Inside the Political Action Committee, since it's political neutral, we accept everybody from all spectrums. We just judge them by the policy, right? But policies, again, like, would you agree that policies are laced with ideologies? Correct, right? So if that was the case, then what if inside the Political Action Committee, there is a person who is furiously, in line with PKS values, is like, let's jail the gays. Like, they're making this country deranged. What's the word? Debauched. And then in the other hand, you have nationalists that are like, let's increase military spending because geopolitical things. And then you have a super liberal candidate who's like, let's give free healthcare to prostitutes.
Is that you?
Depends.
Which one did you identify with?
Well, let's play the guessing game, I guess.
Right,
But like,
right.
you get my idea, right?
Yeah.
What if there's a diverse spectrum of beliefs,
Yeah.
of ideological beliefs inside the Political Action Committee? And how would you address the differences? Or would you like have certain rules in place that are like, you're not allowed to be homophobic, you're not allowed to be racist, you're not allowed to be pro-military, like that?
Yeah. I mean, this is all hypothetical at this point, right?
Hypothetical, yes.
But I think our country is in a state where ideological differences are second order question or like second order debate. The first order is to, gimana ya? I think like an analogy to this is, you remember how all of our founding fathers have different ideologies.
Yes.
But they were united by the fact that we had colonizers and that we need to stand up to our exploiters.
Which really destroyed our politics in the 50s. Continue.
So you can kind of rise above the ideological difference because there's this more fundamental problems at hand. I think we're in that state right now where, yes, we can have our nice socialist versus liberal debates later.
Yes.
Right? But we're in a much more dire situation now where the political, the power is being concentrated so much to a certain group of people. So I think to that extent, right? I think the idea of the PAC, at least in this like first trial, if we are to do it, is to first find the Sukarnos and the initial, maybe not Sukarno but the Hattas, the Sukarnos, the initial, thinkers first, without necessarily focusing too much on their differences. But yes, to that extent, you'll have the, the basic fundamental values, right? They would need to have the public interest at heart. They need to be free of conflicts of interest. They don't come from businesses, like those kind of like basic ethical corridor that you want to set up to make sure that we are running for the interest of the young people. And indeed, the young voters are diverse. We're not monolithic in the sense that we have the religious young groups, the more maybe, both urban and rural religious youth. We have the more liberal ones. So it should and could represent the realities of the demographics of the voters. Later, maybe in, 2045, then we can have, once we graduate and have a more ethical, political system, somewhat better fundamentals set up, then we can have our ideological debates is how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel like the trend right now is that the urgency is indeed the political structure and system and how the game is being played. It's just unfair for young people who are broke and penniless but have all these beautiful ideas on how to make the country great, right?
Yeah.
And because politics in Indonesia is very relational, if they don't know people, if they're not close with bohir, they're not useful towards the politicians, the businessmen, the interests of power, then their ideas is never gonna take off,
Yeah.
right? To the challenge is right now is to reshape that political system, and it makes it much more easier if we have a PAC, so that there's a shortcut to that.
Yeah.
And
I
once
do
we
think, yes.
once we get once that gets running, and then we get people through PAC, through the PAC way, through the PAC highway, I feel like systemic changes could actually be made in Indonesia, which would suck for the old order, which would suck for the oligarchs and whatever, but they're gonna expire anyway. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
I do think the social skills part should be a criteria.
Yeah.
Like as in, they need to be good communicators.
Of course, I feel like
They
as
might
a,
not be connected, but yeah.
yeah, as a politician,
Yeah.
you really need to be
Yeah.
a number one communicator.
Yeah.
You can't be like, I'm gonna do this thing that should be doing.
Yeah.
I hope you guys can.
Yeah. Because the point of
Yeah.
also like being in the parliament is to parle, right? You
Yeah.
are arguing your ideas. You want to, because once you're in the office, you need the social skills, this communication skills to get to pass a law or implement any good ideas that you have. So
Yes, you
that
need
is
to
a
be a great
requirement.
communicator.
That is a
Yeah,
requirement.
and yeah, I feel like the PAC could actually, also train people to be a good communicator. But
Right.
that's the thing about Indonesian political arenas, though, because sometimes like communication in Indonesia often translates with not communicating at all.
Right.
No, like, do you think like you get that, or do you disagree, or what do you think? Or do you
Not
understand?
communicating is good communication.
Yeah, sometimes people are like that too, like Javanese ethics,
Yeah.
for example.
I sat down with colleagues from the PCO, from the President's
Yes.
Communications Office, and they genuinely thought, I think, that, yeah, Mbafu, but if we do communicate and the public misinterpret what we mean or dislike what we are communicating, then that's worse than not communicating at all. Unfortunately, that's what they said. And it didn't come from a place of malice, or like maybe it's ignorance. I think so that's what we need to fix, right? I think the idea that communication should be seen as something that is iterative and like over time, and the point is to allow for that feedback loop to take place, it hasn't been the common understanding on what communication is.
I've been saying to some of the people in PCO, in the Presidential Communication Office, you guys need to be like the White House correspondents.
Yeah.
You guys need to like make a
Get
weekly,
ahead of the
weekly address, etc.,
Yeah,
etc. But I feel like political constraints, political situation constrains them from saying much.
Yeah. And do you watch The West Wing?
Some snippets, yes,
Sure.
when I was in like middle school.
Right. So
Yeah.
the idea of the president's office, right, the West Wing in the U.S., is to do two things, right? Like they have the director of policy, usually
Yeah.
like who thinks about who does public policy, in a sense, like they compare the different options and then give recommendation to the president on what to do with it. The second half of the West Wing is the director of communication. Like it's literally 50% of what the office of the president should be doing, because it matters a lot, like what you're signaling, like every little movement that the president does, what country he visits, how he does whatever his tie sometimes
What
is a
color
communication.
is his tie?
Is a communication.
Yeah.
So and the point of that is the proactiveness of it, the ability to navigate is like that's what communication skills is about.
Yes, that's what communication skills is about.
So being a politician, you need those two teams. Basically, every single politician
Yeah,
needs
you
those
can't be a politician if you're shit at reading people or bad at communicating. So if you're a bad communicator, you have so much excess because your relationships are bad, because you're a bad communicator, don't run for office.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
point of public policy too is that you will always live in second best world. There will always be a trade-off. There is no single like best policy
Of course.
to solve any single problem, right? And that's why it's called kebijakan. and the word bijak, right? Because a lot of it is wisdom in the sense that there's no science to it. It's not
Yes.
that you figure out the best policy. Like makan bergizi gratis is the best policy or not best policy. It's not. It's just a different trade-off. If you prioritize your budget for
Yes.
this, then you're trading off something else. And so the point of having this public policy team is to make sure that you're well informed in all the possible consequences of
Yeah.
choosing A over B.
That's
and,
right.
And accepting those consequences,
Yeah.
and which then will be communicated by the communications office.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Do you play games?
Sure.
What kind of games?
What kind of games? Yeah, but what are you talking about? I play board games.
You play board games? You play video
I
games?
play Nintendo Switch. I don't
What do you
know.
play on Nintendo Switch?
Well, like the boring ones. Apa ya namanya? Sky. I even forgot what it's called. But like RPGs usually.
Animal Crossing?
It's got- No, unfortunately. not.
Okay, unfortunately, Animal Crossing she doesn't play.
I used to play Harvest Moon.
You play Harvest Moon.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great.
I still like it.
PC, you play games?
No.
PC gaming? There's this one game that you should absolutely try, and I feel like you definitely love. It's called Democracy 4.
I know that game. I've played because I don't have
Yeah.
apa Steam ya namanya.
Yeah.
Because I don't have it. I don't play it myself. But I used to have a colleague at work who plays. We
Democracy
played together,
4.
so I know the game.
You
I'm
play?
familiar
Have you
with the
played
game.
Democracy 4 before?
Like yeah, through the over the shoulder of my friend.
Over
But
the
yeah.
shoulder of your friend.
Yeah.
How do you do? Like, do you get reelected?
No, no.
You don't get.
Because he want all the best policies, and then we.
You did the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
policies.
They
but
weren't
because you did-
popular.
They weren't popular,
Yeah.
even though it's creating a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
money.
Cutting fuel subsidies.
Cutting fuel subsidies, but then like nobody
Defund the
likes
police.
defund the police. It's the best policies ever, but it doesn't have support, so you don't get elected.
Exactly.
That's exactly the kind of trade-off that I imagine in my head when you talked about policy, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always second best. Because the reason why you're always second best is because the first best is there to take the hit for you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So if your policy fucks up, this guy, the first best, he's gonna get all the hate.
Yeah.
And he's not gonna understand
Yeah,
why people
why?
hate him.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be like, hey, could you please like brief me on why like these people on Twitter like hate me? And you just gotta brief them, right?
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
gotta brief them.
Yeah.
And so basically what it does is that, but when you make a great policy, he takes all the credit.
Yeah. You're right.
He takes all the credit.
Yeah, and when you go to Harvard Kennedy School,
Yes, when you
what
go to
they
Harvard
will
Kennedy.
what they will teach you is it's always 2 out of 3, and the three are
Yeah.
the policy impact, like the actual like potential impact, political acceptability, and operational feasibility. It's always 2 out of 3. Like something is either feasible to be implemented and popular but actually has limited impact, or it has really great impact and very popular but not realistic. It's like super rocket science, and you don't have the money for it. You don't have the money for it. You don't have the bureaucracy to deliver it.
Yeah.
So it's always that 2 out of 3 across the board. Yeah.
Speaking about policy and moving across the political scene, right? Would you think that if you got very good ideas, but you also go to like foreign schools, does that open a lot of doors?
I think yes and no. It opens, so it gets you a meeting maybe. Like it helps you get that first 15 minutes. But then after that, what you say within the first 15 minutes will determine whether they'll have you for more than 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Oh.
So and sometimes it also creates, expectations and so on and so forth. But I think what I really what contrary to what people might think, going to a good foreign school,
Yeah.
I don't know, if you do it right, it shouldn't lead to hubris. It should lead to humility and understanding that you have so much more unknowns, respecting the local context, having adaptability, and so on. I think when you graduate from those good schools, Ivy League schools, and go back to Indonesia and like feeling contempt and like,
Gue
lo
jalan
semua-
kemana-mana semua orang sembah
lo
gue.
semua. Then you probably didn't have the right education. Like you wasted your money.
Okay. What's your strategy in those meetings? Because I feel like I imagine, like if I was in your position, right, which I'm not really in your position, but if I was in your position, I'd walk in and I look at the guy, right. I'm gonna be like, "Did you play golf?
That's brilliant.
Did you play golf?" I feel like, sir, I feel like you got really strong forearms. You could do some backswing. Tell you what, let's go have a golf meeting right there. Let's talk about business right there.
Yeah.
What's your strategy?
I think I'm very aware that there's myth around the school and what the graduates are capable of doing, and my job is to debunk the myth while showing that I can still help them in a genuine way.
Oh, so you imply that a lot of these people that you meet in the meetings, they'd be like, holy shit, Harvard Kennedy School, she can fix all the problems in Indonesia.
Sometimes, yeah.
Ah, okay.
To a certain extent, it depends on who you meet, right? I think most people, I mean, definitely more senior ones would already have, they're not easily impressed. I mean, like, basically, it depends on who you're meeting, right? But either way, I think what you really need to do in the first 15 minutes is establish your credibility. So to some extent, do communicate what you know, and don't be apologetic about it, especially if you're a young woman. It's very easy to be, no matter what school you go to, you're still like a young woman and not being taken seriously.
Underestimated.
The second part, however, is also being honest about your unknowns. Like being honest about, iya Pak, tapi pengalaman saya di sini baru sekian and sekian tahun. So I'm sure that you know more on this and that context. Because that humility, which I genuinely mean, it's not just like what I say to people, right? I do know that, you mentioned about the echelons who's been there for 30 years, right? Like what's a Harvard graduate who went to school for 2 years know better than the bureaucrats, right?
What's a 23-year-old in JP Morgan are going to talk about company spending?
Exactly. So I think knowing they have this what they call like the hubris humility index.
Yeah.
Having the right sense of that is my strategy usually, because you also don't want to be undermined. So sometimes I would drop the Harvard card if I absolutely have to, but I usually refrain from. But I've been in a situation where basically this echelon from a ministry was like, oh, iya kemarin tuh kita dapat pelatihan dari World Bank di DC and like blah, 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 blah. And basically insinuating that Think Policy wouldn't have the same robustness or whatever he's thinking as what he went to. And so at that time I had to drop like, oh iya Pak, saya juga ekonom di World Bank 5 tahun sih, tapi saya resign buat ngerjain ini. Saya kemarin gitu. So knowing that and like feeling secure. I mean, like going into that conversation feeling secure, but knowing the game enough that where you want to drop it versus justru jangan dipakai karena then that would skew the conversation to an unproductive direction.
Yeah. I can imagine how frustrating that is to push policies, but also having to play the game as well. I mean, you would imagine like this is for the good of the people. Things would be much more easier, but people would think otherwise. They think because you're young, you only go to a fancy school, it's easy to underestimate.
Yeah.
But like again, I feel like Indonesia, circling back to the political action committee thing, I feel like Indonesia would benefit from this. I feel we need incubation.
Yes.
In a form, we need an incubation. We need incubation for politics. We have incubation for businesses, right? Now we need incubation for politics, and it's really important. Why? Because it will secure 50 years of how we live in Indonesia. What is the problem of Indonesia right now? We've got environmental issues. We've got issues with how we manage our resource, industrialization, bad education. And these, the ones that only feel this, the consequences of this debuff is us, the young people.
Yeah.
We're going to have to live with shit policy that was undertaken 50 years ago. And having a political action committee would really help in opening doors in order for us to make an actual change so that we don't live in 50 years of shit. That's exactly what we want to do, 50 years of shit. We want to live life. We want to live a life where, it's really, life in Indonesia is stable. It's it's not hard.
Yeah.
We don't breathe bad air.
Yeah.
We don't think about job security.
The bare minimum, right?
Yeah, job is abundant. It's easy to make investments, to open up businesses. Yeah. It's really easy to make IPs. We got gaming industry. We've got cool infrastructure, etc., etc. It's easy to go to like Jakarta to Surabaya in a few hours. Yeah. That's what we want to do. And all of that is the result of the political process.
Yeah.
But the political process does not favor people who are going to live in 50 years.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do. That's what we ought to start doing. Because again, like, we need organization. I feel like this is the moment where we need organization. This is it. What do you think?
I think the responsibility of incubation falls upon the political parties, and some of them have been doing that. I have to acknowledge, right? Apa namanya PS? No, but basically PKS has their dormitories where that's kind of like their recruitment incubation arm for like politicians. For them, Gerindra has their Tidar, Golkar has Golkar Institute, Amanat Institute, as you mentioned. So all this, there are existing efforts. The main problem is what kind of incubation? What are you incubating these young politicians with, right?
Yeah.
Because I think when you look at this existing,
Yeah.
I think some are better than others, maybe. But I think ultimately, if what you mean by incubation is begetting apa ni namanya ya, like conforming to status quo, if what you mean by like recruiting new members is like not challenging the status quo, then that will not change the system at all, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the alternative incubation space, which hopefully we can try doing in the next few years, right, should be able to build the capacity, the financial capacity as well, and savviness overall to try and challenge the status quo. And that's very difficult. And it's definitely not a 5-year game.
Yeah.
It's like a long-term game. But yes, it starts from incubation.
We got to convince the Bohirs that they need to invest in the future, and the future is us. We can bring Indonesia to greatness, right? This might be the 21st century, might be the century of humiliation for Indonesia. But I pray every day in the 22nd century, we have Pax Indonesia. We are a country that a lot of European countries respect. Why? European countries see our country, they're like, oh yeah, they burn shit, palm oil. But one thing that they will not take from us, and they actually need from us, is how we manage to keep that unity through diversity. Europe currently is undergoing a lot of a crashing of societies. Europe is undergoing the immigrant crisis, crashing of social realities, tradition versus change, and it's really chaotic for them. And because of that, a lot of European countries are starting to swing to the right, even far right. And like, look, they even tolerated the somewhat I wouldn't go extreme and call them neo-Nazis, but they're all neo-Nazis in name.
Yeah.
The AFD. And then you got the Dutch, who are led by the Indonesian fascist. Dia dari Sukabumi loh, by the way. But Geert Wilders is actually half Indonesian.
Right.
Yeah, and they're all swinging to the far right.
Yes,
but
they are.
we have unity and we have diversity, and we don't swing to the left and right throughout those entire years, throughout 80 years of our country existing, and that's what I get in my DMs, actually. A lot of European students, French mostly, they watch my content. They're like, thank you very much. I like Indonesia. J'aime Indonésie, like that.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm like, oh, merci beaucoup, et cetera, right? I asked them, like, what do you like about the Indonesia? And why am I doing the French accent?
In your DMs?
Yeah. What do you like about Indonesia? The first thing they say to me is that they love Indonesia because it's very multicultural. And despite all of that, they remain as a country whole, right? We don't swing politically everywhere. We have our flaws, we have our problems, but I feel like we have a stake in this world. The same thing, the British brought industrialization to the seas, to the world. The Americans brought the American dream, democracy, and freedom. China brought a lot of things that is currently work in progress right now. Indonesia in the 22nd century must export equality. We must export pluralism. We need to export Pancasila.
God.
I'm not kidding.
I know you're not kidding. Yeah.
We need to export those things. Myanmar right now undergoing all that problem, monks massacring Muslims. Pancasila is going to solve the problem for them. That's what we got to do. The way we spread it is that we support industries, we support exports, we support IPs, we build stronger military, we make competitive universities, we create a strong culture so people would want to be like us.
Sure.
Indonesia with nuclear weapons.
What's happening right now?
That's what we got to do.
Oh my God. The unity we have is an imposed one. It has never been a bottom-up process. Pancasila has been an elitist, like an okay, I'm not going to say that. We're going to cut that.
Say it.
I think Indonesia needs to, for better or worse, undergo a certain level of social dissonance, at least, for us to find that new Indonesianness. Because I think what happened in 08 to 28 to then 45, so first we decided, keren kali kita jadi negara, right? Like Budi Utomo's whole thing was, maybe we should think about being a nation. Then 20 years later, we had the Kongres Pemuda and say that, okay, let's adopt this one bahasa. With allegedly representations from all the Yong Sumatra, Yong Java, and what have you. But then 17 years later, the independence, well, what happened after the independence was also important, but the independence was given by the Japanese to us, kind of in a somewhat abrupt way. We had a lot of discussions in BPUPKI, Rapat Persiapan Kemerdekaan, on like what kind of country we want to be. But if you really look into how, Rapat BPUPKI itu perlu dibaca sih. If you really look at how nation building was designed and thought through in that process, there are different alternative scenarios for Indonesia that might be interesting to revisit. Like if there's an alternate history series or movie about Indonesia, it might be interesting to explore if we had been states with a federal government. You'll need to be online. Sorry.
That's okay. My series, French.
Really? I'm gonna turn this off.
Oh, Siri's not listening to me. Anyways, what's
but yeah, the way that we impose unity in diversity, basically, someone just decide, okay, let's be a country without properly ensuring representation from all the different lands in this country, the different aspirations, the representation in ministries, in DPR. Like if you look at geographic representation, you might be surprised that it's actually still very much Japanese dominated as well. I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing this, because I think you're saying like we need to export pluralism and unity. I don't think we are there yet. So I do think we need a new 08 about awakening, the same way that Budi Utomo was, like where a bunch of these young people, we need to rethink like what is actually our dream, like what is our 1945, 2045 dream. And I think Indonesia Emas is definitely not it. It's made by the generation before us and not properly consulted. Like if we ask today's generation, right, what do you want for 2004, like 45, sorry. I don't think it's that Indonesia's GDP growth should be at X and X levels. I think we'll be talking about what you just said, like maybe we just want job security. We want to have access to lands, to housing, and some of the basic stuff. And maybe we just don't want the state to justify taking indigenous communities' lands to build whatever they want on it, or mine whatever nickel, whatever, extract any natural resources they want out of it. Maybe we want the basic, like bare minimum government that is actually competent and run by informed bureaucrats with autonomy to do what they need to do.
A new nationalism should rise from the ashes of Indonesia.
That's it.
And a new nationalism shouldn't be performative. It should be cold, calculating, and rational. Oh wait, okay, that's too sociopathic.
Yeah.
That's too sociopathic.
But yeah, we need a new nationalism.
It needs to be reserved. It needs to be calculated, and it needs to be measured.
It needs to be authentic.
It needs to be authentic as well, but that goes without saying, right? But most importantly, I feel like it needs to be for the betterment of people, not for the betterment of the nation, because the people makes the nation.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
Or the state.
Yeah, the state. And I feel like that is what we should foster. Karena gua, so like we're about to be like we're about to close this podcast, right? And I just want to say, like, I love this nation. If this nation was, I'd marry. I'd marry this nation. I'd marry this nation, right? If this nation was a person, right? Regardless of what gender they are, I'd marry this person, right? But the thing is, it's making me really hard to love this nation. It's hard to love this nation.
It is.
Really, I want things. I want things to be great for the people living in it. I walk to the streets and I see lower class people, struggling people, right? I'm like, damn, what could we do to make things better for them? And there's a lot of them. And what's more insane for me is the fact that they don't think about making bread. They just think about bread. And it's a situation that we can't really help them. It's something that they actually need. They need bread. But at the same time, our nation needs to make bread. But there's not a lot of people that thinks about making bread. They just want bread. So yeah, and the fact that we always put forth political power rather than laws, which I feel like is a mistake for our nation. Right? We have strong laws. Why? It's to keep people's rights and to distribute resources. It's to manage the economy better. It's to protect people from things, from abuse, from exploitation. And we don't have strong laws. We don't have, like, okay, some people would say, like, whoa, what do you mean we have strong laws? Strong laws keeps on fucking us. Yeah, but, like, is it actually a law, though, if it's being used to abuse you? Yeah, and yeah, I think it's just a country that bows down to power and not to laws. And it's really, it's just making me so depressed right now.
Yeah.
I really want to love this nation, but Indonesia, why are you so hard to love? I swear to God. Each time I want to do something, everybody has a vision of how Indonesia should be. Some people think we ought to come together, talk about how Indonesia should be. Sing kumbaya. Others be like, I think we should shoot that motherfucker right there. So, like, yeah. It's just, I don't know. But
it is very difficult to love this nation.
I'm willing to talk about how Indonesia should be. And I've been talking about how Indonesia should be. Me and my friends, we've been talking a lot of how Indonesia should be. And I wish that circle of people grew bigger and bigger and bigger so that one day we can actually define what we want to be Indonesia and we can make that new nationalism. Yeah. Nationalism not based on performance, not based on NKRI harga mati. NKRI harga mati, what is NKRI right now? A bunch of slums in Ben Hill. Do you want to die for a bunch of slums in Ben Hill? Do you want to die for I don't know. I want to say this, but like do you want to die for Sinarmas? Gam, ini dipotong yang barusan gue ngomong ya. Awas lo kalau nggak potong lo. But yeah, lu mau mati untuk mereka gitu. You want to die for corporate overlords who don't care about you. You want to die about politicians who only think about 5 years. Be my guest. I want to think about how things should be in 100 years. Yeah. I bet it's really hard to do so now. How do you even cope through all of this?
And I think it's okay to have those differences, right? As long as they come from a place of caring, actually thinking beyond yourself. I think I think between social media and consumerism and culture, I don't know, I think we're more and more we're spiraling down towards individuals who are more selfish, both at the political leaders and the actual individuals. Because I think, like, for example, the act of voting without trying to find out information is a selfish act. That is very selfish because you don't want to study up and you don't want to and similar at the top. And like we have this culture of kalau kata orang Sunda cunihin gitu, like I like
Are you
always
Sundanese?
looking. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm Sundanese and Padanese and Gorontalis.
Oh.
But I like this like premanism kali ya juga bahasanya, like finding shortcuts, not wanting to do the work but wanting to get the results. That's the case across like different levels, like not just the higher up politicians. So I feel like that's making it more and more difficult to love Indonesia. And so when you find that little bubble of people who are thinking big and thinking beyond themselves and like think about what Indonesia should be aja, that alone is already rare. And I think it like those differences are okay. Again, I want to remind everyone of H. Cokro Aminoto's Kos-Kosan, where all these ideas about a nation was born, right? Like the Syahrir Sukarno, like all these people had different ideas and they debate fiercely amongst themselves. But what they all have in common is again like this care of like what this nation should be, and all comes from the right places.
Cokro Aminoto, he died not knowing that Indonesia became a country. Yeah. So
maybe this pack would be the next Kos-Kosan Cokro Aminoto.
Maybe, just maybe. But then we receive power, and it's going to be a power struggle later on in the future. But I hope power does not separate us. But we should be above power. And that's what we should be. Anyways, that has been a very depressing...
No, why did we end it on a depressing note?
Yeah, why do we end it on a depressing note? I feel like whenever I talk passionately about Indonesia, it starts off as love, romance, and then it ends with heartbreak. It's a tragedy. Yeah. It's like torturing myself over and over again with dry wet wipes. That doesn't make sense. Anyways, anything you'd like to say to the viewers before we end?
Is that a question to me?
Yes. The viewers are watching right there.
I don't know. I think the past few months has been very depressing for me as well in terms of thinking about what the next 50 years would be like with the current political system. And one way that helped me survive or cope through it is kind of thinking about this small things that you can do. There was this new research, I think that went viral on Twitter or Instagram as well. But basically, the research shows that the right wing... Oh, right. So the question was, which one do you think is happier, the right-wing people or the left-wing people? And the finding is the conservatives are happier. Or to simplify, like the people who are pro the status quo. Those who are unhappy with the status quo definitely are unhappier unless they find a community of people and they try to do something about it. When that's the case, they're actually happier than the conservatives or like the pro status quo individuals. So I feel like despite or amidst all this, gloomy sense of what the future of Indonesia could be, trying to do something is our only way to try to remain sane, or like finding those little happiness in the communities of people who try to do something. Even when it feels futile, it's still worthwhile doing. You might die not seeing what you're dreaming like this country should be, but that's the only way to make sure that the next generation or like whomever, the next thinkers, whatever, can continue the effort forward.
Yeah, agree. I wish the left find happiness. I wish no more left infighting because that tends to happen. But yeah, thanks for sharing with the viewers. I hope that you guys find it in you to continue supporting whatever this initiative is, anywhere, everywhere.
I mean, it's still a hypothetical at this point. I don't want to overpromise. I don't know what's actually feasible.
But we need to be optimistic towards the future. If Sukarno, Hatta, Syahrir, they all start off as bullshit students that spends their money talking about politics, even though they don't really get anything out of it. But then, history turns around and they're like, oh shit, we gotta make history. And so you guys are now in the age where you need to ask yourself, do you want to make history or do you not want to make history? Change is in you. Change is not within time, but it's up to you. Even one man can become a giant, it can become a tinderbox to light the world on fire. And we've seen it plenty of times. We've seen it in history. We've seen it with Napoleon, with Lincoln, with that one German guy. You can be that guy. And if you, that guy, that girl, if you are watching this, or, gender non-defined, if you are watching this, then know this. History is waiting for you. History is waiting for you to make a change. Anyways, guys, thanks for joining today's episode of the Base Indonesian podcast. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment down below what you think. And if you want to continue seeing me in this endeavor and adventurism, then don't forget to donate me and the team inside the description. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal